All right, we're going to get going. So great to meet you all. My name is Neil Anderson. I'm the founder of SkillShark, and it looks like we've got a number of organizations from around the US and Canada joining on here. I'm going to take you on a quick tour of how SkillShark can help hockey evaluations and make your process and make your lives so much easier than the traditional pen and paper. So let's talk about how do before we even get into the software, let's talk about what does a typical hockey evaluation look like when you're using pen and paper. And typically that involves doing data entry twice to begin with. So you got all these evaluators and they do all of their scores on paper, and then some unfortunate person gets handed that stack of paper, and now they have to do hours of data entry into a spreadsheet to make sense of it. And even after spending all that time, most organizations don't do all that much with the data. They don't use it near to the extent that it could be. Um, Not the least of which is spending all those extra hours putting the data into the spreadsheet. There's no way to ever get feedback back out to an athlete or a parent saying, here's why you didn't make the top team, and no feedback as to what they need to work on to get better for the next year. Um, Typically, if any parents do raise concerns, it's typically tried to be solved with a verbal conversation, because you cannot show hand scribbled sheets from the evaluators to a parent and think you're going to win any sort of argument. Um, that will just fall on deaf ears. So Skillshark makes things incredibly simple. So now you can have as many evaluators as you want. They do the evaluation right on their mobile device or tablet, take videos, add comments, and you can have everything right on the website immediately after a skate. And this presentation is going to focus specific to hockey orgs and kind of a real life example as to how Skillshark can make the hockey org's life way easier. Okay, so we're going to get into it now. The other thing with hockey evaluations, typically, a very typical example of how hockey evaluations might work is that you have multiple skates, and after each skate, you're trying to have the cream rise to the top. So you're constantly segregating things. We've got customers across the country from US and Canada that have up to 5 skates. Some do 3 skates. Some do a combination of skill sessions and scrimmages. Skillshark is fully customizable, that you can use it in any of those fashions. So very flexible. So first thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to share my screen and we're going to dive into it. So this won't, it shouldn't take all that long. We'll probably take about 20 to 30 minutes to go through all of this. And if there's any questions, feel free to put the questions in and I will handle them at the end. Okay, so here, let's assume that this was our group from last year. And we're not sure who's coming back, who isn't, that kind of thing. So the thing that I'm going to do in Skillshark at the start of every season is I'm going to take everybody, and a feature that we just launched on our All-Star and Legend tier is I can archive these players, and now they're kind of put into the background along with all of their historical data, because I don't know who's going to register this year. And when it comes to importing the new kids, I can import from any spreadsheet or any one of these main registration partners. And regardless of what registration system you use, because there are 100 of them out there, every single one of them has a way to export out to a CSV file. And that's probably what 90% of our customers do. So that's the example I'm going to use here. Before I actually try to import, we're going to dive into the setup. So the first thing I'm going to take a look at is our template. Now, generally speaking, any kid that tries out for hockey generally tries out either as a goalie or a positional player, because under positional, regardless if they're trying out as a forward or defenseman, they typically get put through the same drills like passing, shooting, skating, whereas goalies are measured on totally different criteria. So let's, we've got these two main categories. Let's dive into positional. In positional, we start off in our template here with 5 main skills. Within each skill, you can have as many metrics as you want. This is what's actually being measured in terms of how are you measuring the kids' performance on these different things. The key thing here is these templates are fully customizable. You can make them whatever the heck you want. I added in this extra skill called character, not that it's something that you'd measure during the tryout, but you can actually do some really neat stuff with doing athlete self-assessments during the season, where you can go out and ask questions, and instead of just leaving it like a single word here, you can go and ask them, how would you rate yourself as to willing to listen to advice from the coaching staff on a scale of 0 to 10? How would you rate yourself on team attitude, leadership, work ethic? If you're on the bench, are you sulking because you're not getting as much ice time, or are you cheering your team on, that is on the ice, that kind of stuff. So lots of neat stuff on self-assessments. We're gonna skip over that. Let's just take a quick look here. So under passing, we've just got 2 general metrics, receipt or delivery. A lot of minor hockey organizations just reduce this very simply down to a single metric called passing. You can do whatever you like. Shooting, you can get into accuracy, different things. Skating, you can get as granular or as simple as you want. Again, some minor hockey organizations just have a single metric called skating. You can break that into skating, forward, backward. You can also add in start, stops, edges, cuts, transitions, whatever, as you get into the junior level. But again, you can make this whatever the heck you want it to be. If you're just starting off with using evaluation software and getting away from pen and paper, I would lean more towards keeping things very simple to start. So keep things like relatively simple, like passing, shooting, skating forward, skating backward, that kind of thing. Game sense is another one that people can add on there. The next thing I'm going to go into here on the left menu is preferred positions. So think of your registration system that you're going to be bringing the information that the kids are going to be registering on. There should be a drop-down menu for what position do you feel most comfortable in, like what's your primary position, and then have them choose from a drop-down list. You don't want that to be a free-form text field, because some people will refer to left defense as, they'll spell it out, and some could just put the initials. So just make it really easy so that the text is always the same for the same position. Whatever your registration has, just make sure that this lines up to it, because if you do that, then you, when you import the data, it makes sense in SkillShark. The next thing I'm going to do is go down here to pre-filled comments. So picture this. When you were growing up playing sports, specifically, let's say with hockey, I'm willing to bet that you never got any professional report card saying, here's what you did well, but here's what you need to work on. And as coaches, we find ourselves stating the same pieces of advice over and over and over to kids. So rather than just giving that verbally that goes in one ear and out the other ear that they're going to forget, now in SkillShark, you can have all of your pearls of wisdom that a coach or an evaluator might want to say, and have them preloaded. And then when the time is right, if they're looking at a specific kid, they could just tap on a specific note, and that goes on the kid's report card. So they don't have to type out that same pearl of wisdom 40 times if they look at 200 kids, kind of thing. So we make that really easy. So you can have those, and in SkillShark, anywhere you see 6 dots, that allows you to drag and drop if you want to put things in different orders. Okay. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to jump up here to the players. So we archived our players from last year, and now we're going to import. Before I import, I want to take a look at the spreadsheet that I want to bring in. So here's our registration sheet that we've got from our registration system. Now, you may not You likely wouldn't have had a column called bib number, bib color. You can either pre-assign numbers and jersey colors ahead of time, or you can just leave these blank, and then when you import it to SkillShark, it'll just arbitrarily assign them numbers 1 through 200 with jersey number black or jersey color black. I've got a column for last name, first name, date of birth column, a gender column, their primary choice for position. And then you can get into all of these things, like we might have had a time trial or something like that, or based on last year, we might have randomly assigned them to day 1 group A, B, C, or we could do that in SkillShark, and I'll show you that right away. You can also have custom fields. So you can have a ton of custom fields to put in things like a parent's cell number, or, does the athlete have any medical concerns, that kind of thing. And then these last 2 columns, these are really important. Remember from our template, we had 2 main categories, goalie and positional. Well, if I have on my spreadsheet and I identify which kids are trying out as a goalie and which kids are trying out as a positional player, then when I import this sheet, it'll automatically assign them to that appropriate category. So it makes it really easy. So if everything looks good, I'm going to save that, and I'm going to go to import here. And I'm going to say I'm going to import from a spreadsheet. And I'm going to import that sheet, go continue. Now, anywhere you see the green check mark, that means that it's automatically data mapped in SkillShark, because if you have a column of your headers with email, then we automatically know that that goes into the email field in SkillShark. Going back to that spreadsheet, the one key thing that I should have pointed out is that there's no blanks, there's no empty rows, there's no empty columns. You've got to have, and I could have all of my ages in that one spreadsheet when I upload, because it will auto sort the kids appropriately. And I'll show you here that right away. The other thing, primary position, it's not automatically data mapped. So I'm going to tie that to, in SkillShark, the primary position field. Secondary position will get tied to the secondary position field. Team, I'm going to leave. Group, now I might have pre-assigned these kids to groups, so I'm going to tie that to a custom field called group. Does the kid have a parent that wants to coach? That might be a nice thing to know. How did they do at time trials? I might want to know how they did there. Age, I might have had I might want to classify these kids as U13, U15, that kind of stuff. I could do that. And goalie, I'll tie to the goalie category. Positional, I'll tie to the positional category. I go continue. And here, remember we had on our spreadsheet a column that was marked gender, and we also had their date of birth. And if I toggle this on, I can automatically assign these kids into lists based on their age and gender. And different groups might go by their age on January 1st. Some are July 1st. So we give you the flexibility to put in whatever that age cutoff date is here. I import, and remember the kids were archived before. And because any kids that had the same name that came back, they're automatically unarchived along with their historical data. So again, if I have the archive feature, which is on our All-Star and Legend plan, it makes sure I have a clean slate when I start off every year. So the kids' headshots come back from last year. And again, this is a demo group, so you'll see things like the same headshot for a couple of kids, but don't let that bother you. And you'll notice here that we automatically, based on the kid's date of birth, we automatically assign these kids to lists based on the year that they were born. So if I wanted to see only my kids who were born, my boys born in 2009, there they are. And it tells me that there's 12 of them, 2010, etc. So it makes it really easy to sort. Let's assume for a second that we're starting off, and let's say the kids that we imported, all of these kids, let's say, are part of the same age category. Let's say they're all part of year 13. I'm going to just delete these lists, so I'm starting off a little bit fresh. And what I can do is, if in SkillShark, what you can do is say, I want to select all of my forwards, like I'll say all of my non-goalies. And so I've got 94 players here who aren't considered a goalie. I can select them all, and I can automatically auto-assign them to player lists. And because I don't know who's better than who, I'm just going to make my first sort random. So I'm going to say I'm going to assign these kids randomly. I've got around 6 teams worth of kids. I'm going to say I'm separating these kids into 6 separate Skate 1 teams, and I'll call this Skate 1 Team blank. And if what it's going to do is randomly sort these kids and make lists numbered 1 through 6 with this as the start. And there they are. So I've just quickly randomly assigned these kids. If I want to see team 1, now I can very quickly and easily say, okay, you guys are going to go out and you're going to skate. I want team 1 versus team 2, team 3 versus team 4, etc. So very quickly done, I can do that. Let's say the first skate is over. And again, these lists are very powerful. It allows you to quickly sort, not only on the website, but also in the mobile app. Let's say we want to, and when I say team here, I'm not talking about the final team that they're going to be drafted on. I'm talking about just for the preseason stuff during tryouts. This is the team that they've been temporarily assigned. Okay, let's go to reports. So for any of these kids, now I've got a bunch of data in here. I'm just going to choose a bunch of data and take a look at what a report card might look like. It'll have your group's logo there. The report card for the kid shows their score in blue versus the group average in orange. You can see what the actual values are. You can see if there were any comments evaluators made. You can see the videos that they took during tryouts if you wanted to add that to the kid's report card. And the other really excellent thing that SkillShark does is, based on something that they might not have done well or to whatever benchmark you set, you can automatically assign developmental material specific to what they're lacking in. So you don't have to send them every skill video. It's only the ones that they need the most that they get assigned, which is very, very important. Okay. All right. So we've imported. Now we're going to get into some of the other things that SkillShark can do. So the one that we launched last year for Hockey.org specifically, and this is the one that you're going to love the most, is the tiered draft report. If I go into that, I'm going to create my first one. And what this tiered draft report allows you to do is, after skate 1, I want to try filtering the cream to the top, right? So I'll call this after skate 1. And not everything you measure is equally important to each other, right? So I'm going to have these 4 things from our template that might have been measured by the evaluators, and I'm going to give them weightings of importance. Let's say passing is worth 20 points of the overall score, shooting is worth 10, skating is worth 60, and game sense is 10. You can make these whatever ratios you want. And then let's say within the 20 points that passing is, I can assign the weightings of the actual metrics within that skill. So I could say receiving a pass is worth 30 points of weighting and delivery is 70. It doesn't have to add up to 100, just makes it more understandable for people if you do use numbers that add up to that. And then whatever my recipe is, I go continue. Now it's asking for events. What events do I want to base this on? Now I have a bunch of data from after skate 1, so I'm going to use that. Create, and there we go. Based on that recipe, I said for what makes a really good player, it has now ranked all my players from best to worst with that recipe. So I can also choose to remove certain evaluators' data out of here if I want. Let's say there's a controversy with a dad who might have been, there's some rumors going around that he gave some biased numbers. You can actually just remove that guy's scores out of here and see how the numbers result without his data. So tons of advantages that are just allows you to do so much with it. So this is everybody after the first skate, and now I want to quickly determine who skates in skate 2. Now I've talked to sport like hockey organizations that say after the last skate that might have been at 6 p.m. at night, they are doing data entry until midnight to try to figure out who skates the next day. Using SkillShark, you can now have that done in probably less than 2 minutes. It'll probably take you 3 minutes, 5 minutes your first time, and after that, you'll realize how simple this is and how much stress it's going to remove out of your process and how easy it is. So these kids are all ranked from best to worst, right? And it shows that there's 84 players that have data. If I wanted to separate these kids into lists, I'm going to say I'm just going to focus on my forwards. So my left wings, right wings, and centers. And that brings me to 42. I'm going to separate out just my forwards into 6 teams. And I want to do it in a staggered fashion. So I want the top clump, the top third, the top 2 teams essentially to be in the first, rise those kids to the top, so rather than assign them randomly. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to auto assign to teams based on a ranked fashion. And right now I'm just going to separate them into thirds. So I'm going to base it on their overall score for what we just did. And I'm going to say I want to make 3 lists, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate them into thirds, and I'm going to take the top third and then split those in a balanced fashion to make 2 teams. So I'll say after skate 1 forwards, because these are just the forwards. And I'll call it group blank. I'll call it tier blank. Save, and there we go. So if we wanted to see the kids that finished in the top tier after skate 1, these are the top kids that finished in the top third of after skate 1 for the forwards. I'm going to take those, and now I'm going to auto assign in a balanced fashion because I want to make two teams out of it based on their overall score. I want to make 2 teams. Player list. It's going to be after skate 1 forwards group blank. I'll say forwards upper tier. Save, and now I've got these kids. Here's team 1 and here's team 2 for the forwards. And I would just do all that for the defense, the goalies, and that kind of thing, and kind of rinse and repeat. So to do that, to know who's going to be skating in skate 2 the very next day, it will take you relatively minutes. Like, it'll take you just a couple minutes to figure that out. And then one of the things that you'll have on the All-Star and Legend plan is Message Center. So I can actually send out a message to all the players or evaluators or everybody and just say, here's who skates the next day at 7 a.m. So what used to take 6 hours for some larger hockey groups is now going to take you minutes. Makes it really, really painless. When you get to the last skate, one of the things you're going to do is you're going to want to sort these kids onto the final team. And that's what we'll do here. So let's assume that this is after the final skate. I could just take all my 84 kids, and now I'm going to assign to a team. And actually, I'll do this, assign them to a player list first in a ranked fashion, sort them onto 6 teams based on the overall score, call it team 1 through team 6, and then very quickly create my teams from that. Select them one at a time, and then go here and assign to the actual end result team that they're going to be on. So yeah, it makes things incredibly simple. The developmental resources piece, you could add up all these rules and have it automatically distribute that material to the kids and the parents who are starving for information for just tell me what I need to work with my kid on the weekends to help them get better. So yeah, that was a very quick review on everything. And yeah, if there's any questions here, I see we have a number of people across the US and Canada that are logged in here. If what I'm also going to do here in the chat line is I'm going to put my email address. So it's neil@skillshark.com, and also my cell number 306-742-7540. If anybody has questions that they don't want to do on the call and may just want to have a private conversation. If you go to SkillShark.com, you'll also see right on the home web page is a button. If you want to book a demo, then one of our team members will be happy to jump on a call with you and set up your free trial account so that you can play around with it before you ever spend $1. But we have a ton of happy customers that love the product, love how much time it saves them, loves how much stress it removes out of the evaluation process. And not just for hockey, we do every sport around the globe that you can imagine. So it's incredibly appreciated from a large number of organizations. All right, with that, I look forward to hearing back from you, and we'll talk to you in the near future. Thank you very much.